Louisiana State Fire Marshal Bush Browning. Marshal Butch Browning is here. Hey, Mr. Butch, welcome back to Keel. How are you this morning?
Good morning. How y'all doing this morning?
We're good. They released the cause of the fire at First Baptist Bossier, tracing it to, I guess, what's called a UPS device that a lot of us have in our homes. Describe, how they get to that determination.
Well, the investigation is still very active. I mean, what was found yesterday was some suspicion around that area. There's still a lot of work left to be done to confirm if that is the exact cause. But UPSs can be a common cause of anything electrical. We have a lot of work left to do with our partners, with the Bossier City Fire Department at ATF, not only to continue the interviews and continue reconstructing that scene, but it was a horrific fire, and as you know, it really taxed the resources in that area, and the firefighters did a phenomenal job of saving important parts of that building.
Mr. Butch, explain to us a little bit how that process, I mean, if everything is scorched torch and cinders, how, law firm, if everything is just burned to a crisp, how do those investigators determine where the first spark was? How do they do that?
Well, it's very, very difficult. And, one of my first jobs in the late 1980s was a fire investigator, and I've learned a lot in doing that and watching. The reconstruction process is very, very tedious. So what these folks are doing is they're going piece by piece, small puzzles, and reconstructing the parts of that building, looking for areas that the naked eye probably wouldn't see, the sustained, extensive burns. And as you do that, you've got to look at all the possible causes in the area. We've brought in a lot of resources. Bossier's brought in a lot of resources in this reconstruction. We've ran our canines through it. We've used our drones. We've used a lot of our scientific folks that are very astute in the electrical processes of a building. This building is a very difficult building to investigate because it's an older building. It was built to older standards, so you have to take all those things into consideration when you, look at how the fire burned. There's a lot of concealed spaces in there. That's why the fire department had difficulties in doing their job. So it takes a lot of time to come up with definitive answers. It's not as easy as walking in and checking a few boxes on a check sheet saying this is what caused the fire. It's very, very difficult. And I'm very proud of the team. They've done a phenomenal job. I would hope in the next week many of these things would be completed and more definitive things can be brought into facts. But it's very, very difficult, and we do it all over the state. Almost every day we're on fire scenes that really challenge our people's abilities. It's very time-consuming, very labor-intensive to do these investigations, but it's very, very important to get the answers and get the facts.
It's more of a process, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's more of a process of elimination than it is an aha moment?
Exactly, and much of it depends on the extensive damage. I mean, if you can go into a building where the damage is very easily seen in one part, it's a little easier to do. This case, that's not the scenario at all. I mean, like you say, it is things are burnt beyond recognition. We're working with the people of the church to help us understand what was in rooms. Just simple things: where were chairs located, where were appliances located, all those things have to be done. And that takes time to sit down with people and basically redraw what this building looks like, and then to physically go in and identify and eliminate all the causes. So it's a very extensive investigation. We probably go through about 20 or so investigations like this a year in the state, where it's so extensive and it takes all resources, local, state, and federal, to come together and work in partnership, and this is certainly a textbook investigation.
State Fire Marshal Butch Browning, let me ask you this. A lot of us have these UPS devices in our homes. Mine's probably 15 years old. What do we need to do? What do we need to do with them? When are they dangerous? What do we need to check?
Well, first off, every electrical appliance could possibly be a cause of a fire if they malfunction. It's a mechanical piece of equipment that in time, if something happens, it could fail. What I'll tell you is a UPS is no different than a power strip. So, first thing is you need to make sure that you're not overloading any circuits powering that UPS. Secondly, the things that you're putting into that UPS, if it's just things that are ready to be used, like operating a computer, operating a monitor, maybe some other device, that's probably okay. You know, we've seen UPS backups overloaded for other reasons. So make sure it's operate within manufacturer specifications. Secondly, there's a lot of fail-safes in modern-day homes. You know, breakers trip when things get overheated, breakers trip when a short occurs. You know, so you want to inspect your electrical appliances. If they seem to be overly heated for a long time, but if you can touch it, it seems hot, those are usually indications that the device is being taxed or not working properly. So it's a simple inspection to make sure that it's working properly. Typically, electrical appliances show signs of defray and decay and not working properly. When those things happen, those appliances need to be taken out of service and repaired or replaced. But again, I got to caution you, anything that plugs into the wall could be a source of a fire if it fails or if it's used improperly. So I wouldn't want to just, based on the preliminary information that you're hearing, think that every UPS is bad, because that's not the case. These products are tested and maintained in factories before they're put out in the market, but it doesn't mean things can't fail. It goes back to a lot of other things. It goes back to fire detection. It goes back to having escape plans, all these other things that you need to have when an emergency occurs. Because unfortunately, we can't eliminate every fire cause. We still have to know what to do when a fire occurs and have contingencies on how to act when a fire happens.
The ATF involved in the investigation. Explain why.
Anytime we have a large fire loss, we bring a lot of resources to bear. So I'll tell you, typically we'll have a lot of laboratory work that needs to be done. At the State Police Crime Lab, we can do analysis of debris to determine if there's chemicals in that analysis. We can do DNA. We can do fingerprinting. But when it gets above those type of technologies, ATF has some great assets that could be used in fire investigations. So they get involved not only as boots on the ground to help investigators recreate fire scenes, but also when it's time to start doing testing and I guess extraordinary type of laboratory work, they have a laboratory that we can send things to and get real quick turnarounds. And again, it's all a partnership. And what a lot of people don't realize, and you've already said it, fire investigation is not a one-person job where they can go and determine. It's a very extensive investigation and extremely labor-intensive. We've got resources with ATF. We used in a tremendous fire in New Orleans earlier this year, where they brought in 30 agents to help us investigate a very large fire loss. So they're a very important partner when we have major incidents.
State Fire Marshal Butch Browning, thanks for your time, sir.
Okay, thank you.